Well, the moment the trade between the Bengals and Browns went down involving one Joe Flacco, one of the first people I thought of was you, Zach Jackson, because we had to talk about this. This is like this if this isn't you know, Ohio football in a nutshell, I don't know what else is. A couple of teams just grasping for whatever straws they can find and Joe Flacco in the middle of it. How about it?
Yeah, yeah, I got a couple texts that said nearly that very thing over the last couple hours. It's Tuesday afternoon, Paul. I was just sitting in the Swenson's parking lot minding my own business, right? Scrolling Twitter, and now here we are. So good to see you, buddy.
It's good to see you too. Can I let me start with this. I saw one of Joe Flacco's games this year.
Yeah, and he
In
should have
in
won it.
in
Yeah.
the opener, and he should have won it. Um, how did you feel like Joe Flacco was playing in those 4 games, one of which included a win over the Green Bay Packers that I'm sure the Bengals would be happy to try to replicate this weekend at Lambeau? How did you feel like he was playing, and why did the benching occur? How much of it had to do with Flacco not playing well versus the kids need to play?
Yeah, so he wasn't playing well. And that win, the only Browns win of the season, came after they didn't score a point for the game's first 56 minutes and change, right? But Paul, it was clearly not his fault. The Browns have made that clear to those of us who have watched every snap. That was clear, and he wasn't playing well. And if I want to grade it with a number or a letter, it's not in the top 2 categories. However, I would tell you that there were several times that Joe Flacco kept it from being worse, right? And that was getting rid of the ball. That was only having 1 or 2 interceptions in a game instead of more. That was not allowing a complete meltdown when the drops and the missed blocks and the penalties and all these things that have plagued this team have happened. So he did this because he believes he can still play. And can he play at a high level? I don't know. Why was he available for $4 million in April? Because it's probably been deemed by the Browns now for the second time, right, that he can't do this anymore. But he still has Joe Flacco's arm. He still has Joe Flacco's 18 years of experience, most of which in this division. And although this odd quarterback competition and this calendar that keeps getting odder, right, like takes these twists and turns, like through it, you saw Flacco, and through it all the way here, it was like, yeah, unless something goes really haywire, even by Brown standards, he's going to be the guy. He played well enough to win in week 1. He got let down by his teammates. And now he comes into a situation where the Bengals, frankly, are saying, right, we have these receivers. We're still alive in the standings somehow, and we might as well let him chuck it. So I knew they were up to something. I thought the Browns would trade Joe Flacco. And obviously, when I saw this morning that they released Mike White, we knew that they were on to something. Did I think it would be this today? No. Does it make some level of sense, though? And did what I just say make some level of sense? I don't know. But to me, it does make some level of sense for the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean this is the question is like, gosh, it sounds so desperate. Yes. They're
Yes.
very desperate.
Yes.
This is a desperate move because they are in a completely desperate spot. They did not have a plan C at quarterback. They felt like they were in a great spot at the position with Burrow first. Obviously that happens. And they felt like they had a good backup that they were comfortable riding it out with that could do exactly what they're now hoping maybe Joe Flacco can do, which is play 500 football and keep them in the mix of this thing until maybe Joe Burrow can come back at some point at the end of this season.
Yeah.
And it was apparent through the last 3 weeks that that was an unsustainable situation with whatever happened with Jake Browning. Whatever happened in terms of the difference between who he was in 2023 and who he became over these last 3 games, you couldn't do it. You couldn't go forward with the team. You couldn't look these players in the eye anymore and tell
Right.
them that you're trying to win games, that you're not flushing this season down the drain. You had to try to do something, and that meant find somebody who could show up tomorrow and maybe go win you a game on Sunday because he knows where the ball is supposed to go. And
Mhm.
too often, Jake Browning over these last 3 weeks didn't know where the ball was supposed to go,
Yeah.
put it in the wrong place. And that's the one thing that Joe Flacco probably has that all the other very flawed quarterbacks that were available to them don't have as much.
So December 2023 was a long time ago, but it's also
Yes.
the last time that the Browns had an offense, right? With like two exceptions, and they're no lie two. And that was Joe Flacco coming off the couch, hadn't been involved in football at all, came to the Browns practice squad as this emergency option, and within a week was their quarterback. And they were on a road trip at UCLA, and he was playing, and then all of a sudden he got hot and stayed hot for the rest of the regular season. And in 4 straight games, Paul, he threw for 300 yards. No Browns passer in history had done that, right? And they moved on. I think part of it was correctly judging that he's not the same guy that they had seen the last best version of Joe Flacco, but a lot of that was just Deshaun Watson's feelings. So, which leads us to right now, and I would tell you that I was wrong in my evaluation of what this situation was, because my evaluation was the Browns are going to ask Flacco to throw 2 touchdowns, and they're going to live with the 2 interceptions. And with those things becoming somewhat of a push, they're going to rely on their defense. Now, they did score 2 touchdowns against the Bengals and their putrid defense, right? It didn't work in the other games, but some of it was teams were just sitting and taking the Joe Flacco deep ball away, right? And the Browns have the worst receiving core in the league. And the drops are the only reason that Cincinnati won in week 1. And the drops killed any chance of them making it interesting in Baltimore and in Detroit when things started to get away from them, right? And in both cases, a Joe Flacco turnover contributed to things getting away from them, right? But like it was one, it wasn't a bunch. So he will learn the offense. He will be energized, and that arm will be live. Now, you have covered real NFL quarterbacks, so you won't like piss yourself on the practice field like we did in Cleveland, right? But like tomorrow, when you see Joe Flacco, you'll be like, this looks like an NFL football practice. And when you go and open locker room, some guys will give you the standard answers, and some guys will say, hey, like Joe Flacco still looks like the Joe Flacco that we watched. The rookies will say, my parents watched Joe Flacco. I never watched Joe Flacco, right? Like his starting running back in week 1 was 20 years old. He's 40 years old, right? Like that's how it is. But he can still throw the football. And to an extent, like I said, I would not grade him a D. Now, I probably could not grade him a B-, but I would not grade him a D. And on the list of concerns, just like with Dylan Gabriel last week, like he is who he is, and Joe Flacco is who he is, right? They're very different. They're like Joe's like 11 inches taller than Dylan, right? But like I would grade him as giving the Bengals a chance, not this Sunday, but against bad defenses to like be the kind of competent offense and just throw the goddamn ball to Jamar.
Yeah. Well, that's part of it. It's like you just have to be with Joe's never really had players like this in terms of where you can do that, where if you do just put the ball in the right place, they can do most of the work for you. And I think he's going to be the perfect guy to recognize this, that like, look, let me just get the ball to a spot where Jamar can make a guy miss and do all that, where it's just like so much of that wasn't happening here in recent weeks, where they weren't getting it to when T's wide open over the middle because they doubled Jamar and he had the leverage, not getting to that part of the progression, not getting to the check down when you see that it's a check down play, not throwing it away, instead not doing the like close my eyes, launch down the arm punt down the middle of the field that we've seen Jake Browning do multiple times.
Now, Joe will do that,
Joe
but he
will
won't do it twice. He won't do
Yes.
it twice. And if it goes down the middle of the field, it'll soar. It'll soar.
Yes.
Like I remember his first game in Cleveland, it was in the Rams, right? It was against the Rams out there, and you sit in that deep press box in the corner. And there were a couple times he missed, or one time I think he hit, and other people in the press box were like, man, the safety blew that coverage. And I'm like, nah, guys, that's not what happened. The safety has seen the Browns offense all year, and he thought there's no way in hell that quarterback would ever go to that option and that play.
Yes.
And he just ripped it. Now, this year, team sat and took it away, because that's what a lot of teams do now. And that's especially what you do to a Browns offense week 1 that doesn't have great receivers. And you say, how are we going to lose this game? Where Joe Flacco doing that is the only way we could lose this game.
Yeah, and that's what I'm really interested to see in this offense, because the Bengals offense is based around defenses doing that to them. I mean, they saw 2 high shells before they were cool.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it was like this is what it's all been based around, is finding a way to access the intermediate middle and some of the underneath stuff into spaces where they can try to make something of it for a long time. That's what a lot of the stuff is, and they just haven't been able to take advantage of that. And yeah, I think having also the ability to be able to sit back and rip it when Jamar does win over the top or tease in a one-on-one into the right spot is going to be beneficial. The problem here, and I think this is what we have to speak to, is this offensive line is going to get that man killed.
Yeah.
Like it's you the one that this is why yes, everything we just said makes sense, but the other side of it is he can't move. He's immobile back there,
Yeah.
and this line is just not going to protect him. I fear for the man's well-being.
Yeah, well, he
You know
takes
what I
care
mean?
of himself. He's been here before. I would tell you this.
Yeah.
So they play the Packers this week, which I now know. Um, when you look at his stat line versus the Packers versus what the game looked like, you will say, "Oh my God, I cannot believe that he only took 2 sacks." Like he has a presence, right? And there has been times he runs and he doesn't run fast. But against Detroit, which is just 2 weeks ago, he came out on the first drive. The Browns went 88. I think they got a stop. Lions got the ball first. The Browns went 88 yards in 12 or 13 plays. Flacco was 5 for 5. And part of that, they got second and goal at the 1 yard line. And twice they tried to sneak. And the second time they did, I tweeted, if they do this again, I'm reporting them myself for elder abuse. Like, stop. And on 4th and goal, they gave the ball to Quinshon Judkins, and Quinshon Judkins scored. And it was like, hey, that's what you're supposed to look like with Joe Flacco. Now, the rest of the game, it was drops. He was rushed. Aiden Hutchinson was beating a CFL tackle and taking the ball away from him. And it's like, he has, and I had like 1% gripe or surprise when the change was made last week. Right. But like, because they needed a change, they had not scored. But no one here believes it was all on Joe Flacco. And I think a fair and full evaluation is it was disappointing. It wasn't the same, but it was like never going to be the same. And so many things worked against him. They're second in the league in drops. They're near the bottom of the league in every offensive category, right? And I know turnovers sink some of those, and he has, but Paul, they've had 5 different offensive lineman combinations in 5 games here for the Browns. They have Judkins and they have the rookie tight end Harold Fannin, and until Njoku caught some passes last week, they've had nothing else. Jerry Jeudy is the last rated wide receiver in PFF right now, 75 out of 75. He has $41 million guaranteed. He screwed Gabriel last week with a wide open drop on 3rd and 12 over the middle of the field.
Do the Browns only do bad contracts? Like, it just seems like it's like the moment someone gets paid in Cleveland, it just is as bad as it could possibly be.
Well, Miles and Denzel have worked out.
That's true.
Right.
That's
but
true.
Yeah. Do they mostly do bad contracts?
Mostly do bad contracts. The ones just seem very notable. They just seem very notable.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. Here's why I'm happy for us, though, Zach, is you thought that Week 18 game was going to have no intrigue between the Bengals and Browns outside of draft position. And now you have the Flacco revenge game against Cleveland again.
Yeah, and he goes back to Baltimore again on Thursday night, right? On
Thanksgiving for the whole nation to take.
You can't flex that bad boy.
You can't. That thing is stuck as stuck can be. I said, I've never been more sure that Roger Goodell is going to have an amendment to some of these things than I am that he's going to stand in front of a microphone after that and say, we have to be able to flex out of Thanksgiving night.
I'll be stunned if Joe is still standing in Week 18, right? But look, if he's decent, he's got to be a little better than decent. But like this AFC is so bad that There's
this North. Has the North ever been this? When was the last time the North was this wretched?
Yeah. I mean, you'd have to pick out, pre-Flacco probably for the Ravens, and there'd have to be a year where the Browns were the Browns, right? And other guys got hurt. But the Steelers, since the North was created, have one losing season? So probably not. Right?
Probably
because
not.
A lot
I think
of that
this is the worst.
With the Bengals being decent. Yeah.
Yes. This looks like the absolute worst season for the AFC North. And I'm sure we'll have this in the whip around at some point. How many wins will it take to win this division? I think 9 does it. I think 9 probably is enough.
Well, the Steelers could be at 4 by this Sunday, which is kind of crazy, but it's like they have an old quarterback. Their defense has not played up to, I'm sure that was their whole bye week focus, right? Is just getting that defense fixed. But they have not been good.
They're not exactly known for strong finishes, Zach. They're older. They're one of the oldest defenses in the league. They have had a history of not playing well late. They have a quarterback that is one move away from where are we at? Mason Rudolph. Is that what the backup? I mean, it's like, I think the Steelers are obviously the favorite and they're in a great spot, but no one thinks they're going to definitely run away and hide with this thing.
Yeah. So the first time the Browns had Flacco, I had his birth date down to like the exact day because I was writing all these spin-offs of it. Like, right, he was winning playoff games before Amari Cooper was drafted. You know, he won a playoff game the day Amari Cooper played his last college game. Amari Cooper just retired a month ago, right? But I don't know now, but I can tell you that Aaron Rodgers was 3 drafts ahead of Joe Flacco. So I don't know their exact ages, but Aaron Rodgers was drafted in 05 and Flacco was drafted in 08. Shador was in kindergarten when Joe Flacco was drafted.
Of course, the last time we talked, we discussed the fact that Joe Flacco was opening against the Bengals the same as he did all the way back in 2008.
Yes, I almost forgot about that too.
which I was excited today when immediately Willie Anderson tweets out, "That's my quarterback," a man who the Bengals drafted in 1996 in the first round, who is in their Ring of Honor. He's been in the Ring of Honor for 3 years. He went in 2022. And he blocked for Joe Flacco, who is now charged with getting this, bridging the way to Joe Burrow while the toe heals.
Listen, he is the most likable guy. Like he will come in, and he's not one of these guys who does media for attention and cracks a bunch of jokes. He is blunt. He is professional. He understands his role as a quarterback, and he will come in that locker room and like he won't take shit from guys. You know, he will say, "I'm your friend, and I'm glad to be here, and I feel energized by it." Right? But like he will tell guys like, "Hey, we're going to work on this because you're not going to make me look silly." Right? Like we're going to do this. And so when they do make him look silly, he won't call him out publicly. Right? But like this guy will have an immediate presence. And what's left in that tank, Paul, I don't know. But like I said, I think it's at least a little bit more than the numbers would indicate. And like when I started over the last hour to let this thing sink in, I'm like, hey, they didn't want to go to Jameis. Like there probably weren't many options. And like if I was the Bengals and had paid who I had paid for this year, like this is probably what I would have done. So the Browns continue to be obsessed with 5th round picks, and that's fine. And they are probably in that mode. But like for the Bengals to make that swap and at least give this a shot, like I don't, you can say it's probably not going to work, but I think to just outright hate it is probably silly.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if he plays 3 games and they win a couple of them, it's worth the pick. Like they have, it's not like that really matters in the big picture of things. They have so much stocked up into this year. You can't just flush it. You can't do that to your locker room, to your organization, and to everything that you've built. And so you've got to give something a chance. It might not be the last quarterback trade they make this year.
Right.
Who knows?
So
we'll see.
I'm trying to count this out because I spent my flight home from London. So the Browns have a bye in week 9, which is November 1st. So week 11 is November 15th, which is just like a fair, halfway. Like if you're 4 wins, then if you're 4-7, you might not be out of this thing.
No.
Here, right? Like Bengals, that sounds, when you say it sounds silly, but I don't think it's out of the question.
The Bengals are in the middle of their schedule gauntlet. They have these 5 straight games against teams that are all playoff teams from last year. They've played Minnesota, at Denver on Monday night, Detroit this past week. They're going to Green Bay. They get Pittsburgh at home on the short week. After that, they have exactly 1 opponent left who is currently in the top 13 of the league in DVOA. 1. And that's a trip to Buffalo in December. They have a bunch of games against teams that haven't done anything. Cleveland, Arizona, Miami, Baltimore, who's a mess. Baltimore twice, Pittsburgh twice, Chicago, the Jets are all on their schedule, and the AFC stinks. So it's like, it's right there if you can just be serviceable. They have been nothing resembling serviceable, specifically on offense, this entire year. But if this can give you something with the weapons that they have, you just got to be able to beat some of those bad teams I just talked about to be in the mix at the end. So
they're 2-3, right? They're 2-3.
They're 2-3.
So if they go 2-3 in their next 5, like they're going to be alive. They're going to be in the hunt graphic.
Absolutely.
My Browns
in the hunt
friends,
graphic.
Yeah. My Browns friends live for that.
They were 4-8 last year before their run of winning the last 5 in a row and they still, now granted, no one for now, Joe Burrow is not walking through that door except on a little medical scooter. But like for now, they know that's the other thing. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, potentially, at least the thought of a light right now at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
Like there's always a chance that at the end of the day, you could make it into the tournament with 9-1-5.
Yeah.
Going out there for the coin toss is the light at the end of the tunnel. If you could just find some kind of a way to scrape out some victories right now, and that's where they're at.
Yeah, I'm sure Jay has already dug this out. I think if you take away the 4-1 with the Browns, it's something like 3-13 since the Ravens moved on from them. Like, it's in that ballpark. It's not good. But like, do I think he could go 2-3? Yes. Do I think? Yeah. Yeah. So will I sit here and say I think he can go 5-1? No. But he can still play to a little bit. And I think 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions with that group is a fair expectation. And then if the defense can do anything, or maybe if Jamar can just catch a short one and throw 5 guys off of him like he's been known to do, then why not?
Yeah. At a certain point, you're going to bank on your star receivers to carry him, but that's okay. That's the point.
That's the point. That's the whole point.
All right, Zach, this is fun. I'm so happy this has happened for us.
I'll come back when he wins a game, and we'll talk about it. Like we'll do like a watch along or something.
Let's do it. Cannot wait.
Just a great, like I said, and just a great likable dude, right? Just totally like that. So in a way, you're just rooting for him, and trust me, that permeates the locker room. It didn't this time in the way it did the first time, and the first time the table was kind of set because of what it had been. But like he will come in and he will say, like, I'm not here to be a joke of all the assholes on the internet. Like I'm here to win football games. So let's go make something of this next 90 minutes.
Well, for somebody who, very selfishly felt like I was on the therapy couch after watching Jake Browning on the therapy couch on Monday saying, how am I possibly going to watch a whole season of this?
Yeah.
At least I'm just happy. At least we're going to have something different to watch, talk about after Sunday in Green Bay, which is really the ultimate Ohio football statement.
It really is.
It
really is. All right, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Yep. See you.